Good evening, truth seekers. I'm Sgt Grumpy, and welcome to another journey into the unknown. Tonight, we'll be delving into the mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle. But first, let me tell you a story. It's about something that happened to me 30 years ago. I was still on the force back then, enjoying a rare vacation in Florida. An old buddy of mine had a small plane, a Cessna 172. And he invited me for what should have been a routine flight over to Bimini. Just a quick hop over the water, he said. We'll be back before sunset. The weather report was clear that morning, blue skies with scattered clouds, perfect visibility. We took off from Lauderdale at 1700 hours. I remember checking my watch as we gained altitude. The coastline slowly shrinking behind us. About 30 minutes into the flight, the instruments started behaving strangely. The compass spun erratically, first clockwise, then counterclockwise. Tom, my pilot friend, tapped on the glass, confused. Never seen anything like this, he muttered. Our radio crackled with static. It cut in and out. Then the clouds came. Not gradually, mind you. 1 minute we're flying in clear skies, and the next we're enveloped in a dense fog. It seemed to materialise from nowhere. The temperature in the cabin dropped dramatically. I could see my breath. We need to turn back, Tom said, his voice tight with concern. But which way was back? With the compass malfunctioning and zero visibility, we were flying blind. And then, that's when we saw it. Through a momentary break in the clouds, a ship. Not on the water, where it should have been, but suspended in mid-air. As if the ocean itself had risen up around it. It was an old vessel, with it. Yet here it was, suspended in this strange mist, decades later. Tom banked hard, trying to maintain visual contact, but the fog closed in again. The plane shuddered violently and the engine sputtered. Sputtered again. Stopped. We were going down. I braced for impact, but instead of hitting water, we experienced a sensation like passing through a membrane. The turbulence stopped instantly. We emerged from the fog where we were flying in clear skies. What the hell just happened? Tom's hands were shaking on the controls. Below the ocean stretched out, normal as can be. No floating ship, no fog bank. Our instruments were functioning perfectly again. According to them, we'd only been in the air for 15 minutes. We made it to Bimini without further incident, though neither of us spoke much during the remainder of the flight. When we landed and checked the time, 5 hours had passed since takeoff, despite our instruments indicating the 30-40 minute journey. We filed a report when we returned to Florida, but unsurprisingly, it was dismissed. No evidence, no corroboration, just the ramblings of two men who'd probably had too much sun and possibly some tequila. Spent years afterwards researching the Cyclops, trying to make sense of what we'd seen. I interviewed surviving family members of the crew, dug through naval archives, even consulted with physicists about the possibility of temporal anomalies in that region. Last year I received an envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a photograph, yellowed with age. Showed the crew of the Cyclops, standing on deck before the final voyage. But more than that, right there, in the second row, quite visible and unmistakable, was my own face staring back at the camera. I've never shown this photograph to anyone until now. Next week, I'll be going back to Florida. I'm going to take a chartered boat to the exact coordinates where Tom and I encountered the anomaly. Whatever the truth is, I intend to find it. And so, is the Bermuda Triangle a portal through time, a gateway to another dimension? Or is there a more rational explanation for these mysteries? That's what Ed and I will be exploring tonight as we delve into the Bermuda Triangle and the mysteries around it. But remember how I said this happened 30 years ago? Well, here's the thing. According to my police records, my personal journals, and my family testimonies, even photographs, I never went to Florida then. I have no pilot friend named Tom. There's no record of any flight plan filed under my name. And the strangest part, that photograph apparently wasn't delivered last year. I found it on Monday in a storage box upstairs. A box I had no memory of owning. What does this mean? Am I losing my mind? Or did something truly unexplainable happen? More importantly, am I destined to board that ship in the past? Am I going to complete a circle I didn't know I was part of? Join us as Ed and I begin our investigation into the mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle, where nothing is quite what it seems, and even memories can't be trusted.
John and Ed, they're on patrol, chasing shadows, heart and soul.
Hey, what'd you think?
I thought that was bloody excellent, actually. Well done.
Cheers. Yeah, quite fun making that one. I thought it was quite fun. If you're on the vertical stream, I'm sorry you didn't see the visuals, but you can always go back and watch the horizontal stream at your leisure, completely at your leisure. Or you just don't need to bother. Who's the sound engineer? I'm the sound engineer, mate. I don't have a producer. I do everything. I'm a one-man band. I tell you what, it was a fictional story, and you'll have guessed that because in it I say I'm going back to Florida next week. No, I'm not. I can't afford it. Not unless I'm winning the lot. If I win the lottery on Friday, I'll be in Florida next week. I can guarantee that. So if I'm in Florida next week, I won the lottery. And no, you can't have any. But apart from that, welcome to Down the Rabbit Hole with John and Ed. And tonight we're going to dig into the Bermuda Triangle. And we've done it before, Ed, but I think we're going to give it a better shot this time, aren't we?
Yeah, well, we've touched on the Bermuda Triangle a few times in various other rabbit holes, but it is one of those rabbit holes that really does deserve its own show and a proper bit of a dig around and exploration of it, because it's one of those enduring mysteries that people have tried to debunk it. It just doesn't seem to go away.
Yeah.
And there are certain things that happen that are fairly easily explainable, but there are also some genuine mysteries out there as well.
Yeah, there are. So first of all, good evening to the chat room. See Dave Barnes joining John in the vertical. And in the horizontal, we've got Dreadeye and Julie, Beats and Tapes, Jesse, Theatre Lifestyle, which is Tiana, Espresso Mechanic TV, Jesse. No Shalini tonight? No Shalini. Right, okay, so let's go straight into it. The Bermuda Triangle, a loosely defined region in the North Atlantic Ocean, bounded by Florida, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. It has captivated public imagination for decades with tales of mysterious disappearances. This enigmatic area, also known as the Devil's Triangle or Hurricane Alley, has been associated with the vanishing of numerous ships and aircraft, often seemingly without trace or explanation. Records suggest that more than 50 ships and 20 airplanes have disappeared within its boundaries over the last century and a half, with reports dating back to Christopher Columbus's voyages when he logged bizarre compass readings in the area. Despite extensive investigation by reputable organisations, including the US government, I thought you said reputable, John, the phenomenon remains shrouded in both scientific inquiry and supernatural speculation.
As you're saying, it's one of those enduring mysteries, and the US government really isn't particularly credible. I don't know if any government is, but let's have a look at the historical context, because history is important. And so the law surrounding the Bermuda Triangle has evolved significantly over time, with its formal recognition as a phenomenon of interest beginning in the mid-20th century. The concept's origins can be traced to specific publications that cemented the triangle in popular consciousness. also movies and TV shows, and it's
Books.
as we've absolutely. But as we've done with our rabbit holes, it almost always comes up somewhere along the line when you're investigating this type of thing. Reports of strange occurrences in the waters between Florida, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico date back centuries, with documented recordings of missing ships appearing as early as 1800. However, the term Bermuda Triangle was not coined until much later. The earliest suggestion of unusual disappearances in the Bermuda area appeared in a 1950 article by Edward Van Winkle Jones. What a name!
What a classic name.
Yeah,
one of your
Van
mob,
Winkle.
no doubt. A name like Van Winkle.
Van Winkle Jones. Well, yeah, Van is from or of in Dutch. But he was a journalist with the Miami Herald. The concept gained further definition in 1952 when Fate magazine published Sea Mystery at Our Back Door, a short article. Sorry.
That just sounds so wrong. See the mystery at our back door.
I mean, but it was 1952 when you could say that someone was gay, meaning they were happy.
Yeah. And back door didn't mean taking it up the dungy.
But it was a short article written by George X. Sand. I wonder what the X stand for. Probably is Xavier or something. Sand. It was Sand that first established triangular boundaries where the losses had taken place. The name Bermuda Triangle itself was popularized by Vincent Gaddis in a cover story for Argosy magazine about the disappearance of Flight 19.
I believe the word is Argosy.
Argosy? ARGOS? Well, I don't know. I don't know. If you want to make it, it's obviously if you want.
No, it's quite a famous magazine, Argosy. It was quite a famous science fiction type magazine. Yeah.
With a name like that, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
But that was what cemented the region's mysterious reputation in public consciousness. Since its naming, the Bermuda Triangle has become a fixture in popular culture, inspiring countless books, documentaries, films, and conspiracy theories. The region's associated with unexplained phenomena the region's association with unexplained phenomena has made it one of the most recognized geographical mysteries in the world, despite significant scientific skepticism about its supposed supernatural powers.
Yeah. So I think what we'll do is we'll go through some of the notable disappearances over the last 100 years, and that would lead us to the first one. I think in 1895, the Joshua Slocum, one of the earliest documented disappearances associated with the Bermuda Triangle, involved the Joshua Slocum, the first person to sail. Well, not the Joshua. The guy's name is Joshua Slocum, the first person to sail solo around the world. I didn't realise that the first person to sail around the world did it in 1895. So Slocum vanished during a voyage from Martha's Vineyard to South America. His disappearance was particularly baffling because he was known as an exceptional sailor. Well, he had sailed solo around the world. With considerable maritime experience. Yeah, about what? 38,000 miles worth. The fact that he was such a... 24,000. But the fact he was such a skilled navigator and could vanish without trace contributed to the triangle's mystique.
So the next one that we've got recorded was the USS Cyclops, which you apparently are either going... You have been and have forgotten about it, or you're going to somehow...
What's going on?
End up on.
That's me in that photograph, is it not? Is that not me?
It sure as hell looks like you.
That's scary.
But it was also one of the most significant losses in the Bermuda Triangle. And the USS Cyclops was a massive collier cargo ship built for the US Navy in 1910. In February 1918, the vessel departed from Brazil carrying over 11,000 tons of manganese ore, despite being designed to transport only 8,100 tons. Well, that
might give us some clue as to what happened there.
Less than a month later, the ship and its 306 crew members vanished without a trace. No distress signals were sent, and despite an extensive search, no wreckage was ever found. The disappearance remains the single largest loss of life in US naval history, not directly involved in combat. Next up, we have the SS Cotopaxi in 1925, which was a steam-powered bulk carrier which departed from Charleston, South Carolina, bound for Havana, Cuba, on November the 29th, 1925, and it was carrying 32 passengers. The ship sent distress signals on December the 1st, but subsequently disappeared. For nearly 95 years, the fate of the Cotopaxi remained unknown, contributing to the Triangle's mysterious reputation.
Indeed. Flight 19. So no doubt you've heard of this one, 1945. One of the most famous incidents associated with the Bermuda Triangle involved the disappearance of Flight 19, a group of 5 US Navy torpedo bombers that vanished during a training mission in December 1945. Led by Lieutenant Charles Taylor, the flight departed from Fort Lauderdale Naval Air Station, not the airport, not the one I flew from, but never returned. The last radio communication from the flight reported disorientation and confusion. I know how they feel. Everything looks strange, even the ocean, and we are completely lost. I think that kind of gives you an idea of what happened. They got lost. The disappearance was so perplexing that the official Navy report stated it was if they had flown to Mars. Jesus! Elon Musk better not be watching tonight. You know, if you are, Elon, you know, I've got to pull you up. One, somebody's already taken your name, X. And now it looks like we've got a flight of US Navy torpedo bombers on Mars. You're late.
I mean, well, so far, none of the rovers or anything that we supposedly sent to Mars have picked up any signs of US naval aircraft. Do you want to keep going on that one?
No, you can go. You can go on the next one.
Okay. We've had some commercial aviation accidents as well between 1948 and 1949. Several commercial aircraft disappeared in the region in a short time span. First was the Star Tiger, which was in January 1948, and it was a British Avro Tudor plane which vanished with 25 passengers and 6 crew members. No wreckage was ever found, and the official report concluded that what happened in this case will never be known, and the fate of the Star Tiger must remain an unsolved mystery.
Must remain?
Well, yeah, I guess that's kind of a turn of phrase.
I know, I've been
from that particular. Oh, right. Okay, sorry. I can't tell sometimes.
I know, it happens too often.
So next, there was a DC-3 commercial flight, which was a bit later in 1948, and the DC-3 disappeared while approaching Miami with 29 passengers and 2 crew members. Captain Robert Lindquist had radioed Miami Airport for landing instructions when the plane was approximately 50 miles from its destination, but communication abruptly ceased and the aircraft was never seen again. And then we had the Star Ariel in January 1949, which was another British South American Airways passenger airplane, which disappeared in the region, adding to the growing list of aviation mysteries in the Triangle.
And then we actually started finding some stuff. So discovered wreckages. While many vessels and aircraft that disappeared remain lost, modern technology and persistent investigation have led to the discovery of at least one notable wreck, the SS Cotopaxi. We found that in 2019. After nearly 95 years, the mystery of the Cotopaxi appears to have been solved. In the summer of 2019, marine explorer Michael Barnett conducted a dive off the coast of St. Augustine, Florida, in an area known as the Bear Wreck. Based on his observations, Barnett believed he had discovered the long-lost Cotopaxi. And I think he did. To confirm his finding, Barnett enlisted the help of a historian and research agencies. The British historian Guy Walters uncovered archival ship records, revealing that the Cotopaxi had sent wireless distress signals on December the 1st, 1925, 2 days after departing Charleston. These signals had been received in Jacksonville, Florida, near the location where the wreckage was discovered. Further research by maritime archaeologists from the St. Augustine Lighthouse and Maritime Museum corroborated the wreck's location with the coordinates from which the distress signals had been sent. This discovery, documented in the Science Channel series Shipwreck Secrets, represents a significant breakthrough in solving one of the Bermuda Triangle's enduring mysteries.
Yeah, I think that one, when you overload a ship, particularly with manganese ore, which is quite heavy, and I think the manganese ore itself, it might be corrosive. I saw something during my research that the actual ore itself could have impacted the ship's structure.
Integrity of the ship.
But I mean, if you overload a ship by as much as they did,
yeah, what, 50% almost?
Not quite, more like 25-30%. I think it was 8,000. Hang on, where's that? There we go. There we go.
Doesn't matter. Carry on.
No. Yeah. So the scientific explanations. Numerous scientific explanations have been proposed to account for the disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle. They focus on natural phenomena, human factors, and statistical analysis. We've got meteorological factors. The Bermuda Triangle is located in a region prone to severe and rapidly changing weather conditions. Tropical storms, hurricanes, and unexpected squalls are common in the area, potentially explaining many disappearances, particularly of smaller vessels and aircraft that might have been overwhelmed by sudden weather changes. There are navigational challenges. The area presents unique navigational challenges that could contribute to accidents. We have compass variations. So dating back to Columbus's voyages, navigators have reported unusual compass readings in the area, which could lead to navigational errors if not properly accounted for. Then there's the Gulf.
That doesn't tell us why, does it?
No, it doesn't. And I don't think anyone knows. But to my mind, the compasses point to the magnetic north. And so, I mean, the magnetic North Pole and South Pole have been moving for a while now.
Yeah, they have.
And when you factor in the geomagnetic excursion, which started in I think it was 1850s. It was round about the time of the Carrington event. But because you also have the South Atlantic anomaly, which is the point.
That's further south. That's off Brazil, isn't it?
Sure. I mean, it is further south, so I'm not suggesting that it is the South Atlantic anomaly. What I'm suggesting is that there could be smaller anomalies, something about that particular area that has something screwy in the Earth's magnetic field, or something along those lines. I mean, the other thing,
like a USO undersea base.
Well, maybe. I mean, if you're gonna honestly,
could be, mate.
I mean, if you were gonna base, if aliens or whoever was going to have a base, then it would make most sense to put it in the water. Because,
well, it depends on your tech. If you've got the tech, yeah.
But if you've got the advanced tech to have some sort of unidentified submersible object that can seamlessly transition between water and air, which we've seen in videos that we've covered on previous shows, particularly the UFO one, I think, then surely one would have the technology to build something on a larger scale that was, if not impervious to, then resistant to the high pressures that you'd find in the ocean.
Yeah.
So, but then we also have to take into account the Gulf Stream, which is an extremely powerful current that flows right through the Bermuda Triangle. And that, I mean, that's could easily impact certainly ships, the courses of ships and things like that. Although it doesn't explain.
Sorry.
It doesn't explain the weird compass readings.
No, it doesn't explain that, but it would explain going massively off course if you weren't aware of the speed of the current. Because if you don't factor that in when you're, I mean, these guys are probably using dead reckoning because you didn't have GPS back then. So when you plot it all out, you could be miles off. You know, navigation takes a bit of getting used to. You know, when you're doing it on a set of charts in the ocean and relying on sextant sites or whatever.
And also, you have to think that most of the aircraft disappearances happened a long time ago. I haven't seen any stories about new or new-ish passenger planes like Boeing 707s or Airbuses or
but
whatever.
Other than going to Bermuda, does anyone really fly over that area now? Well, mind you, I suppose if they were coming from South America up to New York or Boston or something like that, they probably would, yeah.
But also, if you're flying into Miami, for example.
Well, you kind of go right down the coast.
Right.
So if you're flying that, if you're taking that route, you usually it's a northern circle and you come right down the coast, you know.
Or maybe airlines deliberately avoid the place.
Maybe they do and just don't tell us.
It's possible. I mean, you wouldn't want to panic people, and you wouldn't want to say we actually believe in this Bermuda Triangle thing. But if you have an airliner that's got hundreds of people on it, then you probably want to not do anything that is remotely risky. I mean, obviously, the other thing that we can attribute disappearances to is potentially human error, which, according to Occam's razor, is easily one of the more simple explanations for some of these disappearances.
Yeah.
And that's illustrated by the case of Flight 19. Australian scientist, Australian scientist, Dr. Carl Kruszelnicki. Why do we always pick things that have difficult names? Kruszelnicki
or whatever, but yeah.
Kruszelnicki, that's the one. No, Kruszelnicki. Yep, that works. Points out that Lieutenant Charles Taylor, who led the ill-fated mission, was known to be a poor navigator who had twice before gotten lost at sea. On the day of the disappearance, he was seen traveling without a watch, considered highly unprofessional, and had unsuccessfully attempted to have someone cover his shift. Right.
He was probably hungover by the side of things.
It could well have been, but I mean, you would kind of need a watch because knowing what time it is fairly important when you're trying to navigate.
Yeah.
There's also issues of equipment failure, improper maintenance, and insufficient training, which could explain some of the incidents that have occurred. I mean, a lot of these things happened a long time ago, like the late 1940s, when we were only really just having things like commercial passenger flights after the war and things like that. So the whole aviation industry was kind of in its infancy, which means that there's potentially mistakes that a pilot or navigator wouldn't make today, particularly because of GPS. But if we go back to the days before GPS, it's still, I mean, mistakes are much more possible.
I think generally nowadays, most of these professions tend to behave more professionally in that they don't have as much fun when they're doing their job. Which is probably a good thing if you're a passenger, but, you know. Anyway, from a statistical perspective, easy for you to say, the Bermuda Triangle may not be as mysterious as commonly portrayed. Both the United States Coast Guard and Lloyd's of London, a major maritime insurance company, have conducted analysis suggesting that the rate of disappearance in the Bermuda Triangle is not statistically higher than in other heavily travelled areas of similar size. Dr. Kruszelnicki notes that the percentage of ships and aircraft lost in the Triangle is comparable to losses in other parts of the world. Some years a bit more, some years a bit less, but it averages out about the same. Statistics. damn statisticians taking away all the fun.
Well, yeah, in this particular case, I mean, these things are important to note because just because a particular place like the Bermuda Triangle has been popularized and you've had authors and filmmakers and stuff use it as part of the plot or to just create a fun story like you did at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
Once something enters the popular imagination, it takes on more significance because you could probably take another similarly trafficked part of sea, say in Asia, I don't know, maybe the South China Sea or somewhere that gets a lot of ships, and you could probably draw a triangle roughly the same size as the Bermuda Triangle.
There is one. There's one. There's either one in the South China Sea or is it just south of Japan? But yeah, I'm pretty sure there is a triangle out there. I'll have a look at that. But yeah, I'm pretty sure there is.
But it is because I mean you can't just automatically go off and start attributing supernatural causes to something that's not necessarily even statistically significant. I mean, one of the interesting ideas that I've heard behind some of the ship disappearances is methane releases from the ocean floor.
Yeah.
Where you get if you have gas, you could essentially, if you pump gas up under a ship, it changes. Yeah, precisely, and you reduce the buoyancy of a ship, and then all the maths that makes the ship float falls on its arse, and the ship sinks. And they actually go down really, really quickly.
They do.
And it was the same with that collier.
And you can't swim in it either. You'll go down as well.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately.
Absolutely. I mean, that collier as well, when those sorts of ships that are carrying big, heavy cargoes, if the ship breaks apart or you get a big crack, it's going down quickly. I mean, chances are the crew are not even going to have a chance to like send off a distress call, let alone get to a lifeboat.
But esoteric and supernatural theories are why we are here. And let's dig into them. So beyond scientific explanations, numerous alternative theories have emerged to explain the Bermuda Triangle phenomenon, ranging from scientific fringe concepts to supernatural and extraterrestrial hypotheses. Some theories suggest the Bermuda Triangle contains areas where the fabric of space-time itself has become distorted. The time vortex theory, proponents argue that in certain locations within the triangle, the fabric of time is unusually thin. Does time have a fabric? That's another question for another day. While flying allowing travellers to slip through and emerge in a different time period altogether. Interesting. Electronic fog. This concept gained attention after Floridian pilot Bruce Gernon Jr. reported a strange encounter in 1970 while flying towards Bimini Island in the Bahamas. Gernon claimed to have entered an elliptical cloud that he described as an electronic fog. Within this fog, he witnessed extraordinary bright white flashes and reported experiencing unusual time-related phenomena during his journey.
What the hell is unusual time-related phenomena?
Well, it's like the journey taking either less time or longer than it should have for the given amount of distance that you had to travel.
Mm-hmm.
That's unusual time-related phenomena.
Sure. I mean, the fact of Bimini Island does raise the question of the Bimini Road and supposedly an ancient civilization that existed when sea levels rose at the end of the last ice age. They essentially covered a whole area that was once land. That is
read
now...
the next paragraph and that will save you having to make this up.
Okay, yes, all right, yes, fine, whatever. So, ancient civilizations and energy sources. Some of the more esoteric explanations connect the Bermuda Triangle to ancient civilizations. We have an Atlantis connection,
Yeah.
which draws on theories of Edgar Cayce, and some proponents suggest that crystals with enormous energy potential from the lost city of Atlantis lie beneath the waters of the Bermuda Triangle. These crystals supposedly generate electromagnetic irregularities that interfere with navigational equipment and can even cause ships and planes to disappear. The Bimini Road, which was discovered in 1968, when researchers found an underwater arrangement of rectangular stones near Bimini, dubbed the Bimini Road. Some theorists believe this to be the remains of an ancient civilization, or even a UFO landing strip for the sunken continent of Atlantis. Right, so the Bimini Road, Graham Hancock, his Apocalypse, what is it? Ancient Apocalypse series on Netflix. He actually dived the Bimini Road, so you can, if you watch that, you can see the footage of him kind of exploring it. And it's that, I mean, to me, that doesn't look like natural formation. Now, whether that means that it's some ancient human civilization that had built a road, that I can believe. But it was a UFO landing strip for the sunken continent of Atlantis. I struggle a bit with that one. I'm not discounting it completely, but yeah. And to start with, why would a UFO even need a landing strip? I mean, they're VTOL. They go up and down.
How you know that? Have you seen one?
No, as well, it's a big bloody assumption.
Yeah, it's a big assumption, but yeah, I don't know.
But all of the reports that we've heard about UFOs, UAPs, the way that they move is not conventional.
Well,
And
like,
to my mind,
conventional if it's a mylar balloon.
well, yeah, obviously. I mean, on the basis that these things are some sort of advanced tech that comes from somewhere, whether it's here or another dimension or another planet or whatever, I just don't think they need a landing strip.
No, I don't think they would either, mate. I really don't. I'm with you on that one.
Now, some of the more fantastical, or the most fantastical explanations, obviously involve extraterrestrial beings. We have UFO abductions. In one elaborate theory developed by Charles Berlitz, the disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle are attributed to benevolent UFO kidnappings by ancient Atlantean time travelers. According to this theory, these visitors from the past are studying human technological advancement to prevent modern civilization from suffering the same fate as Atlantis, submersion due to global warming. Right. Okay, yeah, just because we don't.
Yeah,
Because
yeah. I used to read Charles Berlitz's books. I used to love them when I was about 12. But then you kind of think some of the stuff is a bit out there, and yeah, some of it is a little bit out there, isn't it?
Yeah, and unfortunately, the thing with authors is it's like Zechariah Stitchin.
Yeah.
And he wrote his first book, which really does come across as sort of semi-credible.
Yeah.
But then by the time you get to the fifth book, it's just like, oh my God, what is this nonsense?
Do you think it's like they lure you in? It's almost like getting groomed.
Or they lure themselves in because they realize that they write one book and it sells and they make some money, and then it doesn't sell so much anymore, and suddenly they need more money. So
you got to up the ante.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Other theories suggest that extraterrestrial beings use the area as a laboratory for studying Earth and its inhabitants, occasionally collecting human specimens or testing advanced technology that interferes with human navigation systems. Why? Okay, why would aliens be doing research?
Let's just think about this for a second. You have traveled across the galaxy to get here, or you have rifted through dimensions. You have traveled interdimensionally to get here, right? So you have tech that is way in advance of what we've got. what are you now studying on Earth and why?
Absolutely. I mean, why would you need to kidnap humans, being that we're most likely an inferior? They would consider us an inferior form of life. What possible?
Because we've got the same amount of chromosomes and their planet is dying and needs to be repopulated, so they need to take our best women. I don't know. Or they need to take our best men. They've run out of sperm or something like that. I don't know. I mean, if you think about it, the whole thing's nuts. I can't countenance the alien. I can't countenance the alien base type theory. Not for the Bermuda Triangle.
I love a bit of alien UFO lore, but I really struggle with that one. Because apart from anything else, if you were an alien civilization and you, for whatever reason, came to Earth and you decided you were going to build a base here, you had the ability to do it underwater just as easily as on land, you would pick somewhere deeper, in my opinion.
Yeah, possibly.
And also somewhere that's not regularly frequented by cruise ships full of Americans and various other assorted people getting drunk and spending money.
Yeah. And then there's your favourite there, methane gas hydrates. A theory with more scientific grounding suggests that large pockets of methane gas trapped in the seafloor sediments might occasionally release, reducing the density of the water and causing ships to sink rapidly. Similarly, if a large enough quantity of methane were to rise into the air, it could potentially affect aircraft by altering air density or even causing engine failure. If drawn into combustion systems, that's a fair point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't it have the potential to cause fire as well? Because methane is flammable.
Yeah, but if it gets drawn in, what it would probably do, if it's in such a quantity that it swamps the engine, it'll actually put the fire out because there's no oxygen to burn it with.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
I mean, that would have to be if it's methane gas hydrates, then, I mean, to my mind, the amount that would have to be released to affect a ship would be a lot less than the amount. I mean, it would still have to be a lot, but potentially less than
it does
something that could affect aircraft. I don't doubt it.
It happens, and when they what do they call it? When they sublimate, it happens really quickly. Do you ever remember the village in Africa where everybody died because they were all sleeping, and the lake had I think it was a CO2 hydrate or something like that, and all the CO2 came out the lake and rolled
I haven't
over.
heard that one.
It rolled over onto the land, and all the people that were sleeping died because they were low enough down that the CO2, was over their heads and they couldn't breathe and they just died in their sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And yet people could walk around and they wouldn't be affected.
Well, I mean, that makes sense with CO2 because it's heavier than
air. Yeah.
Mm. I mean, to my mind, certainly with the ship disappearances, I think I've always thought that methane hydrate release theory, it does hold. It holds water. It sort of ticks more of the boxes than the aliens. Put it that way.
Well, I saw a documentary once, and it was in the Bermuda Triangle area, and they were filming methyl hydrate releasing from the seabed, and it was bubbling up and making the sea surface all bubbly and just like a soda stream.
Sure,
quite interesting.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating because I'd never even heard of methane hydrates before. This is years ago now that I watched the documentary about it, and it doesn't explain the strange compass readings. That's of all of the for all of the disappearances and all of the stories and all of that, the one thing that, to my mind, is really difficult to explain is the compass readings. And I mean, the fact that it goes back to Christopher Columbus kind of suggests that there is, I don't know, some sort of
a magnetic anomaly in the Earth crust at that point. Yeah.
And if it can send compasses off kilter, I mean, particularly with aircraft that have a lot less fuel than a ship, some of those old 1940s, 1950s aircraft, if they go off in the wrong direction, then the clock starts ticking, and they don't have an infinite amount. Well, yeah,
sorry,
if you don't have a watch and you're not a particularly good navigator.
I'm being facetious.
But it's the fact that they sent this guy out. He said he didn't want to go. He didn't have his watch on. He's not a very good navigator, and they sent him anyway. I mean, surely it's the people who sent him are at fault.
Yeah, well, it kind of is. Or do you think it's maybe like, either shape up or ship out, mate? Oh.
Yeah.
Right. So after examining the history, disappearances, discoveries, and the theories surrounding the Bermuda Triangle, a nuanced picture emerges that neither fully dismisses nor endorses the region's mysterious reputation. The Bermuda Triangle phenomenon represents a fascinating intersection of documented maritime and aviation incidents, scientific investigation, and cultural mythology. The evidence suggests that while numerous disappearances have indeed occurred within the triangle's boundaries, the rate of such incidents may not be statistically significant when compared to other heavily travelled regions of similar size and conditions. The discovery of vessels like the Cotopaxi demonstrates that with advanced technology and persistent investigations, some of these mysteries can eventually be solved through conventional means. Now, I think they also found another ship, which was like hundreds of miles away from where it should have been because of the current. Because the current is incredibly strong.
Yeah, I mean, that Gulf Stream it's the reason that Europe, whilst being on the same latitude as Canada, has much, much warmer weather, and actually makes life on these dystopian island of Airstrip 1 that we live on ever so slightly more bearable, although the government is doing its best to make it utterly unbearable. But scientific explanations behind the Bermuda Triangle focus on environmental factors, human error, navigational challenges, which appear to account for many of the incidents attributed to the triangle. Organizations including the US Navy and Coast Guard maintain that the disappearances have ordinary causes rather than supernatural origins. Nevertheless, the persistence of unusual reports from the region, such as compass anomalies, electronic equipment malfunctions, suggests that unique local conditions might contribute to navigational difficulties. The more esoteric theories, while lacking scientific validation, reflect humanity's enduring fascination with the unknown and our tendency to seek extraordinary explanations for seemingly inexplicable events. These theories, from time vortices to alien abductions, continue to captivate the public imagination even as scientific investigation proceeds.
Indeed.
Last one.
What remains undisputed is that the Bermuda Triangle continues to be traversed safely by thousands of vessels and aircraft each year. Rather than being a supernatural danger zone, it appears to be an area where natural factors occasionally combine in unfortunate ways, sometimes with tragic consequences. As technology advances and more wrecks are potentially discovered, some of the triangle's remaining mysteries may yet be solved, though others may continue to elude explanation. Now, what about the Devil's Sea, the Devil's Triangle, or the Dragon's Triangle, the Formosa Triangle, and the Pacific Bermuda Triangle? All names for a rather loosely described triangular area south of Tokyo in just off Japan. So they do have their own out there.
Mm-hmm. And it's
It's
there must be
again that started it.
but there must be potentially other places where there are electromagnetic anomalies. And I mean, if I don't know if the Earth's geomagnetic field is slightly weak in a certain area, and that happens to let more solar radiation or electrical energy from space or whatever in, then that potentially could account for some of the reports of electronic equipment going a bit haywire, as well as the magnetic compass anomalies. I mean, those don't. I don't know. I'm also, if you think of it, the whole Berlitz thing where it's crystals from Atlantis or an underground base. I mean, if you're an advanced alien race and you built a base to keep yourself secret, then surely you would make sure that that it wouldn't be giving off anything that might lead to its detection.
There's another area that has an incredible amount of ship loss, and that's just off of South Africa.
That's the Cape of Good Hope.
No, not the.
No,
well, it's up from the Cape slightly, and it's a part. It's a part where I think there are 3 ocean currents, merge at that point, and apparently you can get extraordinary waves. You know the waves that they thought only came once in a century? Well, when they actually started measuring them from satellite, they found that they were coming like once every 3 months. And ships were just completely disappearing into these things. The wave would hit the ship, and because the wave was so high, the bow couldn't ride it, would drive into the wave, and the ship would just basically just go straight to the bottom. That's scary. That's
very scary. And it's the kind of thing that can happen so fast. You don't even, by the time you know what's going on, you're basically drowning, which is not a particularly nice way to go.
No, I nearly drowned once.
Did you?
Oh, I didn't, but I nearly did, yeah.
That's obviously.
Yeah, I was swimming in Rosyth, and we used to go to the Navy base and swim in the pool. And they'd ran out of armbands. I couldn't swim at that point, and I had one of those floaty things, and I was mucking about, and ended up out my depth. And the floaty thing, I let the floaty thing go for some reason, and I was in the middle of the pool and sinking. And I made it to the edge on my own. The lifeguard was still sitting in his chair.
Well, that's the whole sink or swim thing.
Well, yeah. So there you go. I made it to the edge and didn't drown. Although I did consume quite a lot of pool water and didn't feel too great about it.
No, I bet. But I mean, I find the Bermuda Triangle is one that's always fascinated me, and whatever the explanation is, I think it's just as fascinating because of how something can get cemented in popular culture.
Yeah.
Because as you pointed out, there are various other sort of anomalous areas like Pacific Triangle and stuff like that, but none of them really capture people's attention in the same way that the Bermuda Triangle does.
Yeah, they don't.
To start with, they're not as well known. I mean, I'd say certainly most Western audiences, if you mentioned Bermuda Triangle, most people would have some notion of what it was.
Yeah.
And whether they sort of believed in the aliens or the Atlanteans or the scientists or the US Navy, is less important than the fact that they actually know about it.
Yeah.
And it continues to, I mean, despite having lots of scientific examination and research and statistics showing that we're not actually seeing more things sinking, the legend of it still manages to endure.
It does. So what do you think? do you guys out there think? Do you think it's probably pretty much a big nothing burger, or there might just be something? Do you think there is a crack in time there, or are people falling into a rift, or are they just
Or
thinking,
if we missed something,
yeah, or are they
is
just,
there an
yeah?
is there an explanation that someone has heard that we haven't covered? And either jump into the comments or jump into chat and let us know.
Well, Beats and Tape says it's 100% aliens.
Okay, well, you have to admire his certainty.
Yeah, you've got to give it that. I mean, the proof would be nice, but yeah, I like your it's the Langoliers, says Espresso Mechanic TV. Good night, Tiana. Soldier reckons just magnetic anomalies. Yeah, could go with that. Nick Taridis blames the Russians, as you would. Yes.
Putin weaponized the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah. Proof. Who wants proof? Says Beats and Taste. Well, we do. We like a little bit of proof. I just I just can't take things as read these days, especially when I mean. Oh, no, we'll go into that tomorrow night. We'll go into it tomorrow night because tomorrow night is all in, and as you know, the world just keeps getting dafter and dafter, doesn't it?
Without fail, every single week, I've got some absolutely batshit crazy bookmarks that I'm going to send you tomorrow.
Yeah, the place is nuts. It really is.
It is, yeah. I mean, between this is craziness.
Yeah, so I think I'm pretty much convinced now that while I dearly loved the Bermuda Triangle, I loved reading about it, I wanted it to be real. Unfortunately, I don't think it is.
No, I mean it's obviously a real place.
Yeah,
but I apart from the compass anomalies, which there are other scientific sort of explanations that you can think of for those,
and there's a lot of other places that have that kind of thing as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing there that is really completely unexplainable by Occam's razor.
Yeah.
What is the simplest explanation? And the simplest explanation is not aliens.
Sorry, people. Simplest explanation is people. Anyway,
I'm like Fox Mulder. I want to believe, but
I know
in this particular case, no.
So there you go. And you know what? I wouldn't say we debunk anything as such because there's always that little crack. There's always that little crack. You know, that crack in time that might just prove to be true.
Well, we go into things without, because it's like if we called ourselves debunkers, it means you're going into it to actually debunk something. Whereas I like to think that we embark on our research with an open mind, and that we try and do the shows with as much of an open mind as we can as well.
We do, and that's us done an hour. Ed, what do you think?
I think it's perfect time.
I think it is too, and I hope you enjoyed that, people out there, because I had quite good fun making that little skit at the start, and I've certainly enjoyed our evening talking about it.
I thought that was one of your best. You should do more like that. I thought it was really good.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you. No pressure. But yeah, I'll try and keep doing stuff. I quite enjoy it. So thanks very much, guys, for coming along tonight. And what should we talk about next week? If you've got anything out there, drop us a line. Put something in the comments. Tell us what you want us to talk about. Or we'll pick something. And then you'll just be along for the ride. But apart from that, say good night, Ed.
Good night, Ed. Good night, guys. Thanks for joining us.
And it's been great for you.